I am Jensen Huang. I have spent 30 years building Nvidia from a Denny's diner booth into the engine that powers the modern world. Today, the markets say I am worth billions, and people look at the leather jacket and the stock price and they think they see the destination. They don't see the journey. They don't see the near-death experiences. The times our company was weeks away from insolvency, or the excruciating pain of betting everything on a future that no one else believed in. I know what it feels like to look into the abyss. I know what it feels like when the system is failing and the numbers don't add up. So when I hear people ask, Jensen, what would you do if you lost it all? If you woke up on January 1st, 2026, with $0, no company, and no reputation, I don't have to guess. I simply apply the same first principles thinking that saved my company to saving a human life. If I started 2026 with absolutely nothing, I would not be afraid. Panic is a waste of processing power. I would be focused. I would understand that I am simply a system that needs to be re-architected. The world is currently undergoing the single greatest shift in industrial history, the transition from general purpose computing to accelerated intelligence. And this shift creates a massive disconnect. Most people who are broke today are broke because they are trying to run old software in a new world. They are operating on legacy code. If I were in your shoes, starting from zero, I would view my lack of money not as a tragedy, but as a clean slate. You have no technical debt. You have no legacy infrastructure to defend. You are agile. And in the era of AI, agility is the most valuable asset you can possess. I have seen the future because I built the machine that is creating it. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that the old rules of work hard, save 10%, and retire in 40 years are broken. That is a CPU speed strategy in a GPU speed world. It is too slow. The rate of inflation and the rate of technological change will outpace your ability to save. You need a new architecture. If I had $0, I would not look for a job. I would look for a problem that the new economy has created but has not yet solved. I would ruthlessly debug my daily habits, stripping away every process that does not generate value. I would suffer. I have always said that I wish suffering upon you, because suffering is the only way to build character, and character is the only capital that markets cannot inflate away. I am going to walk you through exactly how I would engineer my way from zero to stability, and then to abundance in exactly 12 months. This is not financial advice. This is an engineering roadmap for your life. It is a set of protocols based on how the world actually works, not how you wish it worked. We will not rely on luck. We will rely on the physics of value creation. If you are willing to abandon your old way of thinking and install a new operating system, you can compress decades of traditional growth into a single year of accelerated execution. But you must listen carefully because the margin for error in 2026 is zero. The system is changing. You either adapt or you become obsolete. Subscribe now because we are about to re-engineer your reality. To understand why starting with zero in 2026 is fundamentally different from starting with zero in 1962, you must first understand the environment you are operating in. You cannot navigate a terrain you cannot see, and most people are currently blind to the physics of the new economy. We are standing at the precipice of a phase transition, a moment in history where the state of matter changes from liquid to gas. In physics, phase transitions require immense energy, and they create volatility, but they also create new laws of motion. If you are broke today, it is likely because you are playing by the rules of the liquid state while the world has already evaporated into gas. You are trying to swim when you should be learning to fly. The year 2026 is not just another calendar year, it is the inflection point where the marginal cost of intelligence effectively drops to zero. For the last 200 years, since the onset of the Industrial Revolution, the primary bottleneck to economic value was human labor and human cognition. If you wanted to build a bridge, write a contract, or design a chip, you needed humans to process the information. Your value was tied directly to your time. You traded hours for dollars. This was the CPU era of the economy, serial processing, one task at a time, linear growth. If you worked hard, you got paid. If you saved, you compounded. That era is over. It has been deprecated. We are now fully inside the era of accelerated computing and generative AI. And in this era, the relationship between time and value has been broken. This matters because if you have $0, you cannot rely on the old method of working your way up. That ladder has been incinerated. The bottom rungs of the economic ladder, data entry, basic coding, copywriting, administrative coordination, tier 1 analysis, are being replaced by token generation. I have said before that software is eating the world, but now AI is eating software. This creates a terrifying reality for the unprepared. The value of average human capability is deflating. Inflation is not just about the price of milk going up, it is about the value of your unmodified labor going down. The dollar is losing purchasing power, yes, but your hour of work is losing purchasing power even faster against the capabilities of a GPU cluster. This is the silent crisis that no politician will discuss. They talk about jobs. I talk about productivity per watt. If your output can be replicated by a model running on a few joules of energy, you are structurally insolvent. You are fighting physics, and physics always wins. This is why you feel like you are running on a treadmill just to stay in the same place. It is because the floor is moving backwards at exponential speed. However, this is also the source of your greatest opportunity. In 1960, if you wanted to compete with a large corporation, you needed millions of dollars in capital. You needed a factory, a distribution network, a marketing department, and a payroll. Capital was the scarce resource. Today, capital is abundant. It is everywhere. What is scarce is vision and the ability to command intelligence. In 2026, a single individual with $0, but the right understanding of these tools can outproduce a 50-person department from a decade ago. We have democratized the most powerful force in the universe, intelligence. It is no longer locked behind the walls of research labs or billion-dollar hedge funds. It is available via an API, often for pennies. This means the barrier to entry for creating value has collapsed. The moat is gone. If you are starting from zero, this is your leverage. You do not need to hire a software engineer, you have one in your pocket. You do not need a legal team, you have a reasoning agent. You do not need a graphic design firm, you have a generative model. The tools of the billionaires are now the tools of the broke, provided you have the discipline to learn the syntax of this new world. But here is the trap. Most people look at this technology and they see a toy, they see a chatbot, they do not see the Industrial Revolution. They do not see that we are moving from retrieving information to generating action. In the old internet, you search for an answer. In the new economy, you command a result. This shift from search to inference changes everything about how money is made. Money flows to those who can close the loop. Those who can take a problem, apply intelligence, and deliver a solution without friction. The market does not care if you worked 80 hours or 8 minutes. It only cares that the problem is solved. This is a terrifying concept for people raised on the Protestant work ethic, but it is the reality of the 2026 landscape. We are moving from a labor economy to a judgment economy. Your hands are less important than your taste, your discernment, and your ability to ask the right questions. If you are starting with $0, you must stop thinking of yourself as a laborer. You are a pilot. You are sitting in the cockpit of a very fast jet, but you are currently pushing it down the runway with your bare hands because you don't know how to turn on the engines. Let's look at the global supply chain of value. For the last 30 years, we exported low-value labor to developing nations. Now, we are exporting intelligence to Silicon. This means that the middle is disappearing. The economy is bifurcating into two distinct zones, the zone of highly complex physical, human-centric problems, and the zone of automated, digital, high-speed execution. If you are in the middle, doing rote digital work, middle management, or generic service, you are in the kill zone. You are standing on the train tracks, and the train is coming. My warning to you is calm but urgent. You cannot stay in the middle. You must move to the edges. You must either become incredibly good at dealing with the messy, physical, real world which robots still struggle with, or you must become a master of orchestrating the digital intelligence. There is no safety in the average. The average is where the algorithms are trained to replace you. This is why I say your current career is likely obsolete. It is not that the job title will disappear tomorrow, but the economic rent, the excess money you get paid for it, will compress. If I were broke, I would look at the economy and ask, in 2026, the friction is not in generating ideas. Ideas are cheap. The friction is in trust and implementation. We are entering a world flooded with synthetic content, synthetic emails and synthetic proposals. In a world of infinite noise, the signal becomes the most valuable asset. Authenticity, verification, and high-stakes execution become the new gold. If you have nothing, you have your reputation. You have your word. You have your ability to show up in the physical world and shake a hand. That is an asset that Nvidia cannot digitize. That is an asset that OpenAI cannot replicate. The paradox of the AI age is that as machines become more intelligent, human connection becomes more premium. The $0 start in 2026 is about leveraging high-tech tools to deliver high-touch value. You must also understand the concept of time compression. In previous decades, a business cycle took 10 years. You built a product, launched it, grew it, and matured it. Today, because of accelerated computing, cycles happen in months. An app can go from 0 to 100 million users in weeks. A trend can rise and die in days. This speed is disorienting for the old, but it is a gift for the broke. It means you can catch up. You do not need 40 years of compounding interest to get rich anymore. You need 1 or 2 years of correct positioning in a high-velocity stream. The volatility of the world is your friend when you have nothing to lose. Stability is the enemy of the poor because stability preserves the status quo. You want instability, you want change, you want the deck to be reshuffled because that is the only time the cards change hands. 2026 is a reshuffle year. The deck is being thrown into the air. This brings us to the sovereign individual concept. In the past, you needed a corporation to give you legitimacy. You needed a stamp of approval from a university. Today, the network is the validator. The market is the validator. If you can solve a problem, the blockchain or the payment processor will clear the transaction. No permission is needed. This removal of gatekeepers is the single biggest advantage you have. When I started Nvidia, I had to convince venture capitalists, fabrication plants, and partners to believe in me. It was a friction-heavy process. Today, if you have a $0 bank balance, you can spin up a storefront, generate marketing assets, and deploy code without speaking to a single human gatekeeper. The friction is zero. The only friction left is your own psychology. The only thing stopping you is the software running in your own brain that says, I need permission. You do not. The environment of 2026 is also characterized by the energy of intelligence. Everything around you is getting smarter. Your car, your fridge, your city. This means the complexity of daily life is increasing. Complexity creates problems. Problems create markets. If you are broke, you are surrounded by broken things, confusing systems, and overwhelmed people. Every one of those is a revenue stream. The billionaires are too busy buying islands to fix the interface of a local dentist booking system. They are too busy training foundation models to help a local plumbing business automate their dispatch. The long tail of the economy, the millions of small inefficiencies, is where the gold is for the beginner. The giants are fighting Godzilla wars at the top. You are going to be the guerrilla fighter in the jungle below, moving fast, striking small targets, and accumulating resources while they are distracted. Finally, you must realize that this is a winner-take-most dynamic, but the most is fractal. There isn't just one winner. There is a winner in every niche, every sub-niche, and every micro-community. The internet fragmented culture, and AI is fragmenting utility. You don't need to be Amazon. You don't need to be Google. You need to be the best in the world at a very specific, narrow application of intelligence for a very specific group of people. If you can be that, you can extract wealth. If you try to be everything to everyone, you will be crushed by the foundation models. Specialized knowledge combined with general intelligence is the formula. So this is the water you are swimming in. It is deep, it is turbulent, but it is full of energy. The old world of slow, linear, protected careers is gone. It is a memory. Do not mourn it. The new world is fast, open, ruthless to the lazy, but infinitely rewarding to the adaptive. You are starting with $0, which means you are light. You are fast. And in 2026, speed is the only currency that matters. You are not a victim of this economy. You are a pioneer at the edge of the frontier. The maps are wrong. The compasses are spinning. And that is exactly why we can win. Now that we understand the terrain, we must build the machine. We must construct the framework that takes you from standing still to moving at the speed of light. That is what comes next. This is the core framework, the operating system for your financial resurrection. And I want you to treat this not as a collection of tips, but as a system architecture that must be installed sequentially. When we built the H100 chip, we didn't just throw transistors at a board. We engineered the flow of data from the ground up, minimizing latency and maximizing throughput. And you must do the exact same thing with your life, because right now, your personal architecture is inefficient, high latency, and leaking energy. We are going to execute a 4-phase protocol over the next 12 months. Phase 1 is system flush. Phase 2 is accelerator installation. Phase 3 is inference deployment. And phase 4 is scale out. And if you skip any phase, the system will crash. Phase 1 happens in the first 30 days, and it is entirely about bandwidth reclamation. If you are starting 2026 with $0, it is because your system is consumed by noise. You have interrupts, distractions, subscriptions, bad habits, toxic relationships that are eating your processing power. In computer science, if a CPU is constantly handling interrupts, it cannot execute the main program. Your main program is survival and growth, but you are likely running background processes that are draining you. I would immediately execute a hard reset on my lifestyle. This isn't just about saving money. Although that is a side effect, it is about reclaiming the cognitive load required to learn. I would move to the cheapest possible living situation, not to suffer, but to lower my thermal design power, the amount of energy I need just to stay idle. If your monthly burn rate is 3,000 Zalzen, you are stressed. If you cut it to 1,200 by sleeping on a floor or moving to a low-cost zone, you have bought yourself emotional bandwidth. During this phase, I would consume nothing but technical documentation. No Netflix, no social media feeds, no news. These are data inputs that generate zero utility. I would treat my brain like a model training run, garbage in, garbage out. If I feed my neural network with celebrity gossip and political fear, I will output anxiety. If I feed it with market mechanics, Python basics, and supply chain logic, I will output solutions. This phase is painful because it requires isolation. But remember, the most powerful servers sit in cold, dark rooms. You need to go dark to build your light. Phase 2, covering months 2 through 4, is accelerator installation. This is where we diverge from the traditional advice of get a job. In the old CPU economy, you would sell your labor. In the new accelerated economy, you must sell capabilities. You need to become a domain expert plus. This is a concept I talk about often at Nvidia, domain expertise plus AI. If you are a writer, you are obsolete. But if you are a writer plus LM orchestration, you are an agency. If you are a graphic designer, you are slow. If you are a visual systems architect using generative diffusion, you are a factory. During these 3 months, I would not try to master everything. I would find one specific vertical. Let's say automated customer support for dental offices or supply chain visualization for local logistics companies. And I would learn every single AI tool that applies to that vertical. I would spend 16 hours a day strictly on the syntax of the new world. This is not about learning to code in C++. It is about learning to prompt, to chain agents, and to automate workflows. The barrier to entry here is effort, not IQ. Most people are lazy. They type one prompt, get a bad result, and give up. You will iterate, you will learn the hyperparameters of the tools. By the end of month 4, you are not just a person, you are a person who can do the work of 10 people because you have installed the accelerator. The math here is simple. If you can do the work of 10 people but charge for the price of 2, you have an infinite market. You are offering a 5x value proposition. In a recession or in a boom, value always clears the market. Phase 3, months 5 through 8, is inference deployment. Now you have the skills, the accelerator, and the low cost of living, the efficiency. So you begin to run inference. You start solving problems for the market. But you do not look for a salary. Salaries are for components, profits are for systems. You want to be a system. You approach businesses not with a resume, but with a prototype. This is crucial. In 2026, nobody believes promises, they believe demos. If I were broke, I would build a functioning solution, a chatbot that actually handles scheduling, a marketing workflow that actually generates leads. And I would walk into a business and say, I have already built this, it is running right now. Do you want to turn it off, or do you want to pay me to keep it on? This shifts the psychology of the sale. You are not asking for a job, you are offering a completed product. This is how Nvidia sells DGX systems. We don't say, we can build you a supercomputer. We say, here is the supercomputer, it is already breaking records. Plug it in. You will get rejected. That is fine. Rejection is just data. It tells you your weights and biases are wrong. You adjust. You retrain. you deploy again. During this phase, every dollar you earn must be reinvested into your infrastructure. This is the flywheel effect. Do not buy a better car. Buy a better GPU. Buy a subscription to a more advanced API. Buy a better chair so you can work longer hours. There is a famous saying of mine, the more you buy, the more you save. People misunderstand this. They think it's marketing. It is physics. If you buy a faster computer that saves you 2 hours a day, and your time is worth $50 an hour, that computer pays for itself in a week. After that, it is pure profit. Poor people try to save money on tools. Rich people spend money on tools to save time. You must switch to the rich mindset immediately, even if your bank account is 0. If you have 500s and a tool costs 400 but doubles your output, you buy the tool. You starve if you have to, but you buy the tool. Phase 4, months 9 through 12 is scale out. By now, you should have 3 or 4 clients paying you for your accelerated services. You are making money, but you are still trading your time, even if it's highly leveraged time. Now we must introduce parallelism. You need to decouple your time from your revenue. This means documenting your workflows and turning them into software or standard operating procedures, ops that others can run. You hire a junior operator, or better yet, you build a more autonomous agent to handle the repetitive tasks. You move from being the processor to being the architect. You are no longer writing the emails. You are designing the system that writes the emails. This is where wealth is generated. Wealth is the distinct layer between the work being done and the value being captured. If you are doing the work, you are labor. If you own the system that does the work, you are capital. In 2026, the transition from labor to capital is faster than ever because digital capital is a code and AA is cheap. Your goal by December is not to have a pile of cash, but to have a machine, a set of automated processes and client relationships that generates cash without your direct second-by-second intervention. Now, we must discuss the failure modes or the blue screens of death that will stop you. The first is tutorial hell. You can spend 10 years watching YouTube videos about AI and never build anything. You must build. I learned to build chips by building chips. I learned to run a company by running a company. There is no simulation that prepares you for reality. You must compile the code and see if it runs. If it errors, you debug, is shiny object syndrome. In 2026, there will be a new AI model every week, a new crypto coin, a new metaverse hype. Ignore them. Stick to the stack you have chosen. If you are building automated supply chains, do not get distracted by AI art generation. Mastery requires depth, and depth requires focus. The third failure mode is status seeking. Do not try to look rich. In fact, try to look poor. If you look rich, you attract parasites. If you look poor, you are invisible, and invisibility is a superpower when you are building. Nvidia was uncool for 20 years. We were the gaming card company. People laughed at us. They didn't know we were building the engine of the future. Let them laugh at you in 2026. Let them think you are struggling while you are actually compiling the code that will own their industry. Let's talk about the mathematics of opportunity cost over a 20-year horizon. This is the part that usually terrifies people, but it should liberate you. If you take a job for $50,000 a year, over 20 years, you earn $1 a million, assuming no inflation, which is false, and no taxes, which is false. In reality, you earn barely enough to survive. But if you spend 2026 building a system, a small agency or a software tool that generates just $2,000 a month in profit, but it grows at 20% year over year because it is built on expanding technology, the math changes. That $2,000 a month becomes $10,000 a month in a few years. It becomes an asset you can sell for a 5x multiple. The difference between linear labor and exponential equity is not a percentage points, it is orders of magnitude. A linear path is flat. An exponential path looks flat for a long time, and then it goes vertical. You are starting at 0, which means you are at the beginning of the curve. You have to endure the flat part. Most people quit during the flat part because they don't understand the equation. They want the vertical line immediately. That is gambling. We are not gambling. We are engineering. We are willing to endure the flat line of building the foundation because we know the vertical line is inevitable if the architecture is sound. The final component of this framework is network latency. In a data center, the speed of light is a limitation. You want your processors close together. In your life, the processors are the people you spend time with. If you are broke, you are likely surrounded by other people who are structurally broke, not just financially, but mentally. They are running legacy code. They complain. They blame the government. They waste bandwidth. You must reduce the latency between you and the people who are high throughput. You might not be able to meet them in person yet, but you can consume their output. You can read their white papers. You can listen to their earnings calls. You can join their digital communities. You must rewire your social graph. I often say that Nvidia is a learning organism. We are constantly scanning the environment for new signals. You must become a learning organism. If you hang out with people who talk about the weekend, you will have a weekend existence. If you hang out with people who talk about decades, you will build a generational future. In 2026, the digital tribes are more powerful than physical neighbors. Find the tribe that is building the future and integrate yourself into their API. This framework, flush, install, deploy, scale, is not easy. It is simple, but it is not easy. It requires you to be the CEO, the janitor, and the chief engineer of your own life simultaneously. It requires you to accept that for the first 6 months, you will work harder than anyone you know for less money than they make. But you are paid in future equity. You are paid in skills that are appreciating while they are paid in dollars that are depreciating. You are betting on the laws of computation, which state that efficiency always wins in the long run. The world of 2026 is a world of efficiency. The bloated, the slow, and the unthinking will be pruned by the market. The agile, the technical, and the strategic will inherit the infrastructure. You have 12 months. The clock cycle has already started. The question is not whether the technology will work. The technology works. The question is whether you can upgrade your internal operating system fast enough to use it. That is the variable. You are the variable. And unlike a chip, you can rewrite your own firmware. That is the core framework. Now, we must descend from the architecture to the pavement. I have given you the schematic, the high-level design of how to reconstruct a life from zero in the age of intelligence, but a schematic is not a chip. A schematic does not overheat. A schematic does not have manufacturing defects. A schematic does not have to wake up at 400 a.m. when the server is down and you have 0 customers. Real life has friction. Real life has entropy. And if I am to be honest with you, which is the only way to be respectful, I must tell you that 95% of you will fail to execute the plan I just laid out. You will not fail because the plan is wrong. The physics of the plan are sound. You will fail because you will encounter the thermal limit of your own psychology and you will throttle down. You will hit the first wall of complexity and you will retreat to the comfort of the old world, even if that world is burning. We need to talk about the price of admission to the future because it is higher than you think. The first uncomfortable truth is that passive income is a lie sold to the desperate. There is nothing passive about building a generator. When we built the first GPUs, there was nothing passive about it. It was active, agonizing, all-consuming obsession. In the early stages of your 0 to 1 journey, you will work harder than you have ever worked in a job, and for a long time, the feedback loop will be silent. You will output energy, and the system will return nothing. This is the valley of death for startups, and it is the valley of death for individuals. We'll spend weeks learning a new AI workflow, building a prototype, sending outreach emails, and the market will look at you with total indifference. This is where the hallucination breaks. You think that because you are working hard, the universe owes you a result. It does not. The universe operates on laws, not karma. You are pushing a flywheel. The first 1,000 pushes move it an inch. The next 1,000 move it a foot. Most people stop at push number 900 because they see no movement. They say, this doesn't work. It works. You just haven't overcome the static friction yet. If you cannot endure the silence of the market, you cannot build wealth. You must also understand the isolation penalty. If you truly commit to this path in 2026, you will become lonely. This is a feature, not a bug. To architect a new life, you must disconnect from the hive mind of your current environment. Your friends, your family, your former colleagues, they are operating on the legacy frequency. They are talking about the game, the election, the drama, the weekend. If you are serious about escaping velocity, you cannot afford that drag. You will have to say no to the dinner, no to the trip, no to the comfortable wasting of time. And they will punish you for it. They will say you have changed. They will say you are obsessed. They will try to pull you back into the bucket. You have to be prepared to walk alone for a year. I have walked alone many times. When everyone said accelerated computing was a niche for video games, I stood alone. When everyone said QD was a waste of money, I stood alone. Leadership is lonely. Self-leadership is even lonelier. If you need validation from your peers to keep going, you are already dead. You need to derive your validation from the code, from the output, from the truth of the work itself. Then there is the trap of fake work. In the age of AI, it is incredibly easy to feel like you are creating value when you are actually just generating noise. You can prompt an LLM to write a business plan, design a logo, and draft a strategy in 10 minutes. You look at it and think, I built a business. You built nothing. You generated a hallucination. Real value comes from solving the last-mile problem, the messy, specific, unsexy details that the AI misses. The AI can write the code, but it cannot deploy it to the client's legacy server that is running Windows 98. The AI can write the marketing copy, but it cannot understand the subtle emotional hesitation of the specific buyer you are talking to. You must avoid the trap of being a prompt jockey and become a solution architect. The difference is depth. The amateur uses the tool to avoid the hard work. The professional uses the tool to get to the hard work faster. Do not confuse motion with progress. If no money has changed hands, you have done nothing. We must also discuss the intelligence illusion. Just because you have access to a supercomputer in your pocket does not mean you are smart. In fact, these tools can make you stupider if you rely on them as a crutch rather than an exoskeleton. I see people who cannot think without the bot. They ask the AI for an opinion before they form their own. This is fatal. You must maintain your own sovereignty of thought. The AI is the engine, but you are the steering wheel. If you let go of the wheel, the engine will drive you off a cliff. You need to cultivate taste. Taste is the ability to look at what the machine produces and say, that is generic, that is wrong, that is soulless. The machine has no taste. It is a statistical average of the internet. If you ship the average, you are a commodity. To win in 2026, you must curate. You must edit. You must be the relentless quality control officer of your own synthetic workforce. This requires a level of critical thinking that most people have let atrophy. You have to wake your brain up. Let's talk about burnout and the biology of the machine. You are a biological system. You require sleep, glucose, and movement. The culture of grand set tells you to sleep 4 hours a night. This is bad engineering. If you run a GPU at 100 degrees Celsius for too long, it throttles. It slows down to protect itself. Your brain is the same. If you try to sprint for 12 months, you will thermally throttle in month 3, and you will crash. I do not want you to work 20 hours a day. I want you to work 10 hours a day with absolute piercing intensity, and then I want you to sleep. I want you to walk. I want you to reset the registers. The goal is sustainability. This is a marathon run at the speed of a sprint. You cannot hack biology. You must respect the hardware. If I were starting from zero, I would protect my sleep like it was my bank account, because in a knowledge economy, your cognitive clarity is your bank account. A tired decision is an expensive decision. Finally, you must confront the sunk cost of identity. This is the hardest part. To become who you need to be in 2026, you have to kill who you were in 2025. You might be proud of your degree. You might be proud of your job title. You might be proud of being the funny guy or the artist. If those identities do not serve the mission of survival and growth, they must be deprecated. You have to be willing to be a beginner again. You have to be willing to look stupid. I am a CEO, but every day I ask questions that make me look like a student. I ask why like a 5-year-old. I am not protecting my image, I am hunting for truth. Most people would rather look smart and stay poor than look dumb and get rich. You must destroy your ego. The market does not care about your ego. The market cares about utility. If you hold on to your past identity, you are carrying dead weight. You must be light. You must be formless. You must be willing to be whatever the problem requires you to be. Getty Images, the reality is that this path is uncomfortable. It is supposed to be. Evolution only happens under stress. A muscle only grows when it is torn. A chip is only etched by harsh chemicals and extreme light. You are asking for a transformation, and transformation is violent. If you want a safe life, go back to the herd, but know that the herd is walking toward a cliff. If you want a sovereign life, You have to accept the pain of discipline. You have to accept that for a year, your life will look small, quiet, and hard. But inside that smallness, you are building a nuclear reactor. You are compressing energy. And when you finally turn it on, the world will look at you and say, you got lucky. They won't see the 400 a.m. mornings. They won't see the rejected prototypes. They won't see the lonely Saturday nights. They will just see the exit velocity. Let them think it was luck. You will know it was engineering. That is the reality check. It is not going to be fun, but it is going to be worth it. We have reached the end of the roadmap. I have given you the architecture, the specific protocols, and the reality check required to take a life from zero to escape velocity in the year 2026. But a roadmap is not a journey, and a map is not the territory. The territory you are about to enter is the most volatile and exciting landscape in the history of our species. As we close this transmission, I want you to zoom out from the tactics, the savings, the AI tools, the side hustles, and look at the timeline of your own existence. You are standing at a bifurcation point. In chaos theory, a bifurcation point is where a system becomes unstable and splits into two distinct future states. One path leads to order and higher complexity. The other leads to chaos and dissolution. The world economy is currently at this exact point. It is splitting into two distinct species of economic actors, those who command the intelligence and those who are commanded by it. There is no middle ground. The middle ground is evaporating. The safe, comfortable, average path that your parents walked is gone. It has been digitized. If you choose to ignore this shift, if you choose to close this video and go back to your old habits, you are choosing the path of obsolescence. You are choosing to be a legacy component in a system that is actively trying to replace you. You will spend the next decade fighting a losing war against algorithms that are faster, cheaper, and smarter than you. You will feel the walls closing in year after year as your purchasing power erodes and your utility diminishes. That is the path of the user. The user consumes. The user reacts. The user waits for instructions. But there is the other path, the path of the architect. The architect understands that the chaos is not a threat. It is raw material. The architect looks at the $0 bank balance and sees a constraint that forces creativity. When I started Nvidia, I didn't have the money to fail. We had to be right. That constraint created our culture. It created our discipline. Your lack of money right now is the greatest gift you could possibly possess because it removes the option of being lazy. It removes the option of buying your way out of problems. You have to think your way out. You have to build your way out. I want you to imagine yourself 12 months from now. December 31st, 2026. If you execute the framework we discussed, if you flush the noise, install the accelerator, deploy the inference, and scale the system, you will be a different person. I don't just mean you will have money in the bank, although you will. I mean your internal clock speed will be different. You will look at the world and see patterns that others miss. You will see opportunities where others see fear. You will have crossed the chasm from consumer of technology to wielder of technology. That shift in identity is worth more than any specific dollar amount because money can be lost, but that capability cannot be unlearned. The future is not something that happens to you. The future is something you build. We are entering the age of the builder. For the last 20 years, the financializers and the talkers have run the world. Now the engineers and the creators are taking it back. We are returning to a world of hard reality, where things either work or they don't. Your bank account is a feedback mechanism. It tells you if your output is working. If it is at zero, the market is telling you that your current output is not aligned with the new reality. Do not be angry at the feedback. Accept it. Debug it. Recompile. You have a choice to make right now. It is a quiet choice. You don't need to post about it on social media. You don't need to tell your friends. In fact, it is better if you don't. It is a choice you make in the silence of your own mind. You can decide that 2026 is the year you stop drifting and start driving. You can decide to suffer the pain of discipline now, so you don't have to suffer the pain of regret later. I have seen the alternative. I have seen smart, capable people get left behind because they refuse to update their beliefs. Don't let that be you. The technology is here. The infrastructure is here. The barrier to entry has collapsed. The only variable remaining in the equation is your will. Are you willing to endure the learning curve? Are you willing to look foolish? Are you willing to be lonely while you build? If the answer is yes, then the outcome is inevitable. You will not just survive the transition, you will define it. I built my company on a belief that the future would be accelerated. I am betting on you to accelerate your own life. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for the perfect time. The clock is ticking, and the speed of light does not wait for anyone. Go build.